So I want to talk to you about this idea of UFOs and ETs and aliens showing up in dreams. Um, and it may be a little overly ambitious to try and do this in one video, but I'm going to take a shot. So let's take sort of the simple construct that when you put together a dream, your imagination puts together a dream. It is looking to tell a story that will, for the most part, help you step into the next larger version of who you are, okay? And that story has a location, it has a script, and it has characters. And so what we find in the culture a lot, particularly in the last period of time when, the whole idea of UFOs and ETs made the front page of the New York Times. They did a whole story about it. You can go on sort of the major podcasts like Joe Rogan, who has people on talking about this, I don't know, every month to 6 weeks, it seems. And then we can look at, what's in the media, how many series, Star Trek, Star Wars, and on, even up to a series called The Expanse. So there's a lot of imagery and characters and discussion out there about the possibility that there's alien life in the universe. So what do? We take what's available and put it in a story. Now that's a very sort of simple explanation of why one of these characters would show up in your dreams. And I want to digress for a minute because there is an idea out there. I don't think it's got much credibility anymore, but there were a bunch of people running around saying, oh, your dreams are just, a way to clear out the garbage in your brain, right? So you don't have room for all these thoughts. And so you put them in dreams so you can get rid of them. Doesn't really work so well when you're dreaming about your mother or your father or someone close to you. Maybe not. But in any event, that's a very simple explanation, right? That there's stuff in the culture that you're using. Okay. Then we have to sort of step into the idea of, well, okay, why is this idea about alien life becoming more and more present in our culture? And one thing to look at is that there are some ideas, and it's very debatable, but there are some ideas that alien life was actually a part of the ancient life, that there are certainly some evidence, again, debated, where ancient peoples, Mesopotamia, South America, Mexico, etc., who were describing beings that came from other places, not the earth. So one could say that this has been part of the human psyche for a long time, this construct. Where it came from, if it's just a psychological construct, it's not so clear. Okay, but then what we need to look at is the reports of aliens in our culture in the modern day. And we can say essentially that it started in the 1950s. Sorry, that's my dog going in and out. And what happened in the 1950s? Well, we developed the atomic bomb and then the hydrogen bomb. So essentially, we changed the entire construct of humanity into a consistent, ongoing existential threat. There are 14,000 nuclear weapons in the world today, right? There used to be tens of thousands more, but we've reduced them somewhat in terms of treaties, and we've also made them incredibly more powerful than they were in 1950 to where they are today. So we all walk around with, whether we consider it in the front of our minds or not, with the understanding that we could destroy life on Earth. There's an estimate, which seems to me to be conservative in terms of the number, that 100 nuclear weapons going off would end life on Earth. There are some other stories that I've heard where 1 or 2 could create such an ecological disaster that life on Earth would be very difficult. Okay, that's present. Now, the reports of UFOs and alien abductions and all that stuff started around the same time, right? At the point at which this existential threat became real. And there are stories of nuclear weapon systems being turned on and off and all this kind of stuff. And if you want to go down that rabbit hole, which I don't, but if you do, there's a lot of information out there. The problem with all of it is that it is not definitive. You know, we have some reports from very credible people, Navy pilots, all that kind of stuff. We have some film. Okay. So again, this is fodder for you to use these characters, this experience, to put in your dream. And let's talk for a minute about that before we get into the strange part. So what are you doing? Whenever you have a dream, whenever you create a story, you are putting characters, if you will, in that dream to call up some emotional experience in yourself to draw attention to something you're dealing with. That seems a little abstract, but essentially this imagination, this creativity that puts together your dream is talking to you about something that's present in you, okay? That your dreamer, your soul, however you want to describe it, is asking you to address, because this is the next thing in your life, in this life, for you to address, to grow, to transform, to become more human, however you want to describe that. So an alien in your dream, in terms of your experience of that, whether you are totally into that stuff or completely the other direction, don't believe any of it, that really sets the stage and the context for the character in your dream. And that's what we're really interested in when we talk about dreams, is what does it mean to you, right? However, we are increasingly choosing these characters, these otherworldly characters, to be in our dreams. And in a funny way, you know, aliens, you could say, are synonymous with angels, synonymous with fairies, synonymous with Greek gods, all of whom we assume not to exist until they do exist in our dreams. And that's where we're going to get into the weird part of this. Look, the work that I do is based on the idea of grounding the client, grounding the person who is telling the dream. That this dream you are having is important right now. You can be dreaming about something that happened 20 years ago. You can be dreaming about grandparents who are long gone. It doesn't matter. The reason is that it means something right now. When I say means, I don't mean meaning. I mean, it impacts something right now, something that is calling for you to pay attention to, all right? Life has gotten very strange. And I'm not talking about New Age people, you know, who have sort of a corner on the market in the mystical world. And I'll digress for a minute. I was on a podcast this morning where that was presented to me, and I said, you know, I'm not really sure that the ancient peoples or the Native American peoples thought this was all mystical. I think that's us. I think we've described it as mystical. I think they thought the dream world was perfectly ordinary, which is what I think. I think the dream world is perfectly ordinary. And yet the dream world, it encompasses experiences that don't make any sense to us, okay? And that allow us to sort of peek into a reality that we have a hard time really integrating with our waking life. Because we live in a world where things make sense, supposedly. I mean, a lot of things don't make any sense, but they have been constructed in a way that there are reasons. Things are rationalized. That's probably a better way to put it, in terms of how things are, right? It's all up here. We figured it all out, all right? The problem is we haven't figured it all out. And the problem is that that aspect of our experience, figuring it out, is a very narrow band of what it means to be a human being. And what we discover is that there are all sorts of things, if we pay attention, that expand our sense of what's going on. I keep thinking about Einstein's statement that reality is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. Okay. And then you can go into all the stuff about we live in a matrix, or, we're just a construct of some video game. There's all kinds of explanations about what this experience is all about. But the one that seems to matter to me the most is your imagination. And your imagination is fed by something. Okay. In the Jungian world, it's fed by archetypes, right? But archetypes were just energies before we named them. They're energies. They live in you. And in order for us to try and understand them and have a conversation about them, we give them all names. Okay. The idea that there is some sort of a being that is not, a lower animal, like my dog, that exists is quite possible from the standpoint that it lives outside our awareness. And that increasingly it seems to be encroaching on our awareness. There's a very famous case, and this would be interesting for you to look up, in South Africa, where apparently a craft landed. These folks came out of this craft, whatever you want to call them, and had conversations with about 100 students in a school. It's well documented. The kids who are now adults have all been interviewed dozens of times. A lot of them don't want to talk about it anymore. But we're having these experiences in the waking life that are very real in the dream world. So your imagination is extraordinarily powerful. And I think it's extraordinarily powerful now more so than ever before, because we have reached this crescendo in the world of opposing ideas, of this duality of I'm right and you're wrong, and here's why you're wrong, and here's why I'm right. All right, this is a very cognitive function. And I've probably mentioned before that there are researchers that say this is really the purpose of the rational mind, to make an argument. It's not to evaluate things objectively, it's to make an argument. So we have that down, how to make an argument. But our imagination keeps pushing us to consider something different. And as I said, we've gotten to a place where we've run out of arguments, okay? We're at the point where I'm right, and if you don't agree with me, I'm going to kill you. We've been through that cycle more than several thousands of times in history. But as I said, we're now at the point of an existential threat, where if we can keep continuing down that road, it seems pretty clear to me that somebody is going to set one of these 14,000 nuclear weapons off. And the fact that nobody has in 70 years is amazing, okay? So that's one way to go. The other way to go is to pay attention to our imagination. And our imagination is not just some kind of ephemeral thing that, allows us to think up how to make a painting or a sculpture, no, our imagination is very powerful. What we imagine, we can manifest. And we see that very much in the technology that we have developed. And we see that very much in the nuclear weapons we have developed. We can manifest our imagination. And whether or not ETs and UFOs are real and they have impacted us or been present to us, and that's why they appear in our dreams, or whether or not they reside within us and we're making ourselves aware of their presence through our dreams, to me, doesn't matter. It also is not the end all and be all from the standpoint that, oh, the ETs are here, everything's going to be okay. I doubt it. Okay. It's an element of our existence that is going to continue to expand. Okay. And the only thing you can do to stop it is go la, 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 la. That's it. Right. That's the only escape you have. Not just from ETs or UFOs or any of that stuff, but from any idea about how the world might be that you can imagine. We live in a very unstable time from the perspective that there is tremendous power in the imagination right now. And there is a widening gap between those who will pay attention to that imagination and those who refuse to. So, bottom line, it seems to me that when you experience some kind of an alien or an unidentified flying object or whatever in your dream world, the most important thing for you to understand is, what does that mean to you? Okay. What's the emotion in the dream around that? Are you experiencing it as weird and crazy? Or are you experiencing it in some other way? Because the whole idea of some other kind of life form means that you're experimenting or thinking through, or in some way trying to integrate the idea that is not just us. We're not the ones who get to decide everything and how everything's going to be. We live in a universe. As Plotinus said thousands of years ago, everything breathes together. Everything breathes together. And now we have quantum physics saying the same thing. So I would suggest that we get ourselves a little bit detached from this idea that we're going to concretize whether or not ETs are here and whether or not there are UFOs. There are plenty of people who want to do that if that's your thing. And I would suggest that we pay attention to the metaphor and we pay attention to the imagination, because that's where the power of it all is. And that's where the meaning of it all is to you. And I would suggest to you that this is just the beginning of a dream experience that is going to expand into places that you can't even conceive of yet. Just like we can't conceive of how the heck this is all going to turn out, after supposedly we get out of this COVID situation. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's changed. And it's not just the politics and it's not just the economics. It is literally the human experience that we have all had for the past year. And I'll leave you with this one idea. There's a group of people I meet with once a month. And at the end of the meeting yesterday, somebody said, "Oh, this is pretty incredible, because somebody's from New Zealand, somebody's from the Ukraine, somebody's from Canada and the United States, and we're all over the world." Somebody else said, "Yeah, we're sort of the underground group, who's talking to each other about our dreams." My thought is, we're not the underground group. It's not underground. What COVID has done is brought this experience of connecting, literally connecting, to everybody. We had this technology obviously before COVID, but now everybody connects in this way, and everybody connects from all around the world. And as sort of mundane and kind of run-of-the-mill as that's become during COVID, that's amazing. I mean, that's just amazing. So buckle up. There's some really interesting things that are going to happen. And the more you can allow yourself to experience them without making judgments about them, without deciding this is the new reality, just let yourself experience them. And if they're UFOs or aliens, okay. And if they are simply an idea about how things could be different, even better. So I wish you to dream well. I am really going to encourage you to write your dreams down. They are stories that you are telling yourself for a reason. And I want to change how these videos are used in the coming year. I'd like you to start putting in the comments section what comes up in you. Not necessarily your dreams, because I get a little worried when people post dreams online and ask people to respond to them. What's more important, I think, for our conversation is, how do these ideas impact you? What does it make you think? How does it make you feel? Do you think it's nuts? Not something you are going to pay attention to? Whatever it is, let's get a conversation going in the comments, because this is an aspect of experience that I think is really important. And as I've said before, if the videos are useful to you, there's a Patreon link that'd be great for you to sign up for. And these videos will keep coming to you, and you can find them all on my website. All right. Take care of yourselves. COVID is not over. As a matter of fact, as we roll out this vaccine, assuming it's effective on whatever's going on in the UK, it's going to get harder for the next 2 or 3 months. It's going to be a tough winter. So take care of yourselves, take care of others. We all need each other. All right. I'll talk to you soon.